Ladies and gentlemen, big hairy news.
Hey, kia ora koutou, it's whānau. Welcome back to another episode of Big Hairy News. Kia ora, Chewy.
Kia ora, Pat. I'd like to give a shout out to Radio New Zealand. I went for a wee before the show. Thank you.
We will get into all of that as we get into that. I don't know if you can hear it in my throat, but I'm a bit under the weather. I think what happens is you have these stressful weeks and everything stays at bay, and then you get over it, and all of a sudden you go, oh, I'm not feeling very well. I'm actually not that bad. I'm exhausted still. I'm still exhausted, Chewy. I'm just looking forward to. I don't know this
big old fucking weekend.
This exhaustion thing. Once it gets to 4 weeks from now, pardon me. I don't know quite how we're going to be. How are you, bro? What's going on? What's crack-a-lacking?
I'm not sick. I am very tired.
Yeah.
We got back into Dunedin about 7 o'clock last night.
Give or take.
It was not the chill, easy, straightforward weekend in Auckland that I think we had hoped for. But you know what? We got it done.
Yes. Well, people, there we go. XLD has covered our late fee. I apologise about that. I've been sitting at my desk this is where I work as well. It's not just where we film, but this is where I work. This is my desk. And I was sitting here all of today looking right there at the tripod stand or the light stand where my camera goes. I have to remember to put that on. I should definitely remember to put that on. And then I came downstairs at 5:02, stopped and talked to my 17, I don't know, the youngest one, for a couple of minutes going, I can get down there at 2 minutes too. Got down here at 2 minutes too and went, oh, it's no camera. I should probably do something about
Camera's
that.
very important.
Well,
Very
it was
important.
either that or I've only ever done it once, I think, where you have the day where you look like, hang on, where do we do? You do this. I could have done that as well. But no. I thought most people want to see my beautiful face. So,
What about that one?
if we both did it, would that be that would be weird for the whole night, wouldn't it? Yes, Chewy, come back, please. I don't want to look at that anymore.
You don't want to look at sweaty Luxon through a glory hole?
No, not in the
I picked
slightest.
that one wrong.
So far, no. Yes. What a big old week it has been. What a big old week. So much has been going on that I thought I should probably take some notes as to what we're going to do through the show tonight. Because we've never done this before, Chewy. We've got 2 items from one program. We've got 2 Q&A items we're going to look at tonight. But I mean, and like, we're not even going to cover off that, thankfully, David Seymour has cured New Zealand of racism. He announced that over the weekend that he was now racism's over because David Seymour says so. But I tell you what's going to happen, I suggest in the upcoming weeks, team, is sometimes things might flow on into the week. I think we have to cover that one from yesterday, probably tomorrow. David Seymour basically putting into play. It is the ultimate cultural war announcement because there are already laws in place against discrimination, and he's bringing out legislation to make sure people don't get discriminated against. So it is your quintessential example of cultural war bullshit, where he is just making noise to try and get his princess snowflake people to be like, oh yes, because Māori, they get something that I don't sometimes, which is hardly ever true. Unless it's like a contractual agreement, Chewy, then Māori may get something within that contractual agreement that people who aren't within that contractual agreement may not get. But you know, who knows? So yeah, we also want to talk a bit about the debate over the weekend, because I joined you guys on Thursday night for a bit of a conversation around what happened with David Seymour. A bunch more information has gone on since then, and I thought what we could do. I feel like that's the thing we should start with, Chewy, but then we've got 2 Q&As. So it might make more sense to do Q&A debate Q&A. What do you think?
Yeah, let's do it that way.
There are going to be occasions where I probably am going to do this tonight because I am. What did you say the other day about mucus in your body? I'm just going to turn my mic off for a sec, Joe. Fill the space.
Oh, let your imagination fill up the space in your brain with what noises he's making.
Are you a
it's
honker?
so bad.
When you sneeze, when you blow
noises,
when you blow your nose, are you a honker? Are you one of the...
You've heard the noises that Pat has made in the past.
Oh,
whatever noise he was making was bad enough for him to mute himself there. And
Yeah, I didn't mean.
had to
Yeah, I
mute him
did.
so I could talk to you about how bad the noise was.
I was just going to say to you, are you a honker? Like when you blow your nose? Because I am. I'm one of
No.
those guys that goes when I blow my nose, which is why I need to turn the mic off. Because I blew
No,
my
I
nose.
sound like a well-educated Victorian lady when I sneeze.
My father was a honker, and there was probably many honkers before him, and honking has continued strong in me when one blows their nose. If you were at the debate or you watched the debate and you want to comment, we should probably do air quotes for debate, the event, the happening. That's what we should have called. We should have called our events happenings. That'd sound kind of ethereal, wouldn't it? The BHN happening this weekend. We might talk about that. Like as Chewie just said, we'll do Q&A because there's quite a lot to talk about to do with the debate. Not just what's happened in the weekend, but around it as well, and of course the press coverage that's been going on. We BHN, I did another interview today, Chewie, for the press, and so that's I guess going to be out in the next few days. And obviously there was a big piece on Media Watch, which was recorded on Thursday, and I said to Colin that we don't really know what's going to happen this weekend, and he said, well, maybe we'll do a follow-up on Wednesday. So I guess there's a chance that there might be a bit of a kind of addendum on Wednesday's midweek Media Watch about what happened this weekend, but we'll see what happens. Chewie, do you want to, because even though I have all my markers for times and stuff, I don't actually have one queued up that I want. Okay, speaking of queued, I actually think the Qiulae Wong interview was a car crash, but I think the Paul Goldsmith one's more important, like as in for who we are as a country, especially because they talked about actual policy like move on orders and enrollment. So it feels like Qiulae Wong's sort of the dessert, but maybe Goldsmith is more the meat. So maybe we start with Goldsmith, yeah?
I think you're right. In a lot of ways, Goldsmith's appearance on Q&A is worse. He's been a politician for longer. He's representing the government. It was just as much of a car crash as Q's was.
Yeah, and also the stuff that they were talking about was all real stuff. Like, what legislations are you passing? Whereas Qiulae Wong's one was all about what would you possibly do hypothetically if you got a chance. So let's do that. And look, I got to tell you, each of those interviews I think was about 30 minutes. So I've got so many clips we could do. We're not going to get to everybody's clip that they thought was the best if you've watched it. But stick with us, and if you want to go see the whole car, we'll show you the broken headlight. If you want to go see the whole car crash yourself, then you'll need to check it out in your own time. So Chewie, can you? I see. Even I'm looking at this. What the hell do we talk about? Because I always go through and I make the notes for all the clips, and then I go, but now I have to narrow it down. Do the super chat, Chewie, and I'll decide while you're doing that.
I'll do the super chat.
Do the super chats.
Pat continues to plan the show. Okay, Adam says, just wanted to say great job on Saturday night. It was great to watch, even with the last minute changes. Yep, more on that later on. Citizen Gold says 82 days, so make sure your watch is synchronized. We vote. 11 days to the Welly meetup. Very important.
Highlight of the week.
We haven't done a meetup in Wellington, just say. We know that Wellington is full of absolute political tragics and nerds. So it'll be a good night out. Study Boy NZ, who I met on the night. I met a whole bunch of people. I have a terrible memory for faces and names, but I don't remember Study Boy. It was a great night on Saturday. You guys did well. Also great to have a quick chat with Chewie, which I'm talking about now.
That was a chat. That was a chat about your chat just then. That was official.
Yeah, it was very meta. And Buddhistic says, well done on Saturday. Very interesting, educational. Yeah. It was a good chat.
Kirsty Fong, in all of our literature, everywhere, has been like, oh my gosh, she was the highlight. Where is she? Can I know more about her? She's amazing. I feel like Wallace and Gromit when I do that. I don't know, it's the thing he does. Actually, just before we do, Qiulae, I mean, that would be something to actually touch on rather than talking about the debate. The meetup. Let's just talk about the meetup at 39. It was pretty cool. Lots of fun. Met lots of lovely people. Good time had by all. It was good it was interesting talking to the guys from 39, like earlier when we were setting it up, and they're when I say they're struggling, everyone in Ponsonby, everyone on sort of bars is struggling at the moment because expendable cash for most people isn't as readily available. So it was quite nice to also take a little bit of business. It wasn't huge, but a little bit of business to them and thank them for their time. I said if you were there, you would have heard it. If you didn't, there's a really cool out the back area which was plenty warm enough. It was only we're still technically winter, aren't we? Aren't we still technically winter?
Yeah, I tell you what, the gear change for us two muggins from down in Dunedin to fly up to Auckland, where it was between 15 and 18 degrees at all times, and then fly back to Dunedin where it was 4 degrees when we arrived.
It was less than that, wasn't it? I think it was less than that.
Yeah, it was pretty brutal gear change. That's probably why you're sick, mate. But yes, 39 on Ponsonby was a great time.
Yeah. If you go there, get the cheese balls. Holy moly.
Yep.
If I ever had to put balls in my mouth again, it would be their balls that I'd want to put in there. They were spectacular. And
I do have to shout out the lovely gift that I was given. Someone gave me a book detailing the anti-nuclear protests here in New Zealand. The peace squadron that sailed out into Auckland Harbour and stopped the US nuclear submarine coming in. Phenomenal photos. A really, really important piece of New Zealand protesting history. I haven't had a chance to go through it completely yet, but it's amazing. And I just want to hold up when people complain about protest being inconvenient.
Yeah.
How protesters had to sometimes put their bodies on the line in that. I can not think of any better example than getting on a sailing boat, going out into the middle of Auckland Harbour and putting it right in front of a US nuclear submarine. The balls
I think
that
that's what they
would
call
have
it.
taken.
Well, they call it the city of sail. Speaking of meetups, of course, put it in your diaries, whānau. If you're at Wellington, 28th of August, that's under 2 weeks from now, at Eva Pub, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. again. That's what we tried to get to in Auckland. And if you're in Wellington, come on along. Never done a meetup in Wellington. I mean, Wellington's what, 1/3? 1/4 the size of Auckland? I reckon we can get more to the meetup in Wellington. I just get the sense. I get the sense we can. Every second person from the Hutt Valley will be coming, because when I do merch, often it feels like 1 in 3 of the items goes somewhere in the Hutt Valley. I don't know. You guys are active. Shall we put it that way? All right.
Have we sent any merch to C Bishop of the Hutt?
Well, as we'll talk about later on, maybe he likes us as well. Just like Tama Potaka, who seems to think we're great and loves seeing us on the Facebook, Qiulae. So maybe there's a C Bish in there somewhere. All right, guys. Now listen, the Paul Goldsmith interview also was a train wreck. I don't know what Kiwi Rail is going to do with 2 massive train wrecks this weekend. I don't know if that puts the rail out for a few weeks, but there was a couple of big ones. Maybe some of them exploded as well. I'm not entirely sure. I'm just going to go through some of the stuff they talked about that we're not going to cover as well. They talked about and I do like that Jack Tame said something like, "You purport to be the government of business." That was a very nice line, and of the police and Mr. Goldsmith, who I always think of C3PO when he talks, makes me think that all the time. Says, "Well, we are." And Jack then went on to a conversation around, well, police don't want these move-on orders. Business don't want them. Oh, no, sorry, this is the citizens' arrest. Police don't want citizens' arrest. The business or official business, people that retail in New Zealand, they don't want citizens' arrest. So who are you doing it for? We go through that, and we've gone through a bit of that so far in the conversation. We're coming in about a quarter of the way through, about 5 minutes in, when that conversation flowed on into a chat about some of the policy, some of the language that they've actually removed from the policy. Not new policy that they've made, some of the stuff that they've removed. And funny enough, Chewie, it has to do with the ability for citizens' arrest to include being quite violent if they need to be.
Legislation says you can use such force as may be necessary to detain someone. And it removed language in the Crimes Act that prevented striking or bodily harm. So why was it important to you to remove that language?
We just want to give people the flexibility they need to deal with situations. We trust the judgment of New Zealanders. If you're dealing with people who are stealing stuff from you,
Jack never said this at any time. I don't think I've ever heard something quite as stupid in all my life. I don't know why Jack didn't say that. What he's saying is we trust New Zealanders in a heightened situation who are untrained when it comes to physical violence to use the appropriate amount of physical violence. That's literally what he's saying. We trust New Zealanders to make the right decision. Shop owners being robbed, maybe there's a weapon involved. They aren't trained in any kind of combative sport. This government is saying, but we trust that shop owner to know exactly what to do in that heightened moment and to use the appropriate amount of force now that we've taken these wordings out of the legislation, which means, yep, they can slap them up a bit now, but only if they need to. But only if they need to.
Also, expand that out. We trust New Zealanders to make the right decisions. So the person deciding to do the shoplifting is a New Zealander?
Well,
like, it's such a stupid comment.
All right, well, let's listen to some more stupid comments.
We trust the judgment of New Zealanders. If you're dealing with people who are stealing stuff from you, at the moment, if you hang on to somebody and stop them, you yourself could be, the shopkeeper could be liable for assault.
Well, only if you assault, please. And only if you assault them. Not if you restrain them, only if you assault them.
Where's the examples of this? Where's your citations? Where's your cases? Like, this is what I mean. If this was a problem, we would have seen the problem. We haven't seen a problem.
Yeah.
No shopkeepers have been done for this.
And as I said, they get done for assault if they assault them. How do you assault someone? Well, you assault them by striking and hitting and beating them. And you guys have just taken the wording out of this legislation that basically says you can now strike and hit and beat them, but only appropriate levels. So that means, yes, you will now get people assaulting in this situation. Now, some of you out there is going to go, fine, don't steal. The Business Roundtable, wrong
Good
word.
point.
Retail New Zealand and the police are saying, don't do this. It's going to put the shopkeepers in harm's way. People are going to come into the situation knowing that physical violence is now a reality. So the shoplifters, the guys committing the theft, are going to be more prepared for violence. Don't do it.
We don't think that's right.
But it's not hanging on to. This is that you removed the language that prevented someone from striking someone.
You cannot use. It's got to be reasonable force. You cannot use unreasonable.
Which it already was.
Force. So that's quite clear about that. And
right,
the main
but
thing
it
is that you follow the
explicitly removed that language,
yeah.
right? So is there anything in the Act that requires someone to have been assaulted or physically threatened before striking or causing bodily harm?
No, what we're doing is giving somebody an extra tool to deal with people who are stealing their stuff and making it more expensive for everybody else and creating a sense of chaos. And we're not apologising for that. All we're doing is giving an extra tool. And for people who are worried about it...
Speaking of extra tool, Mr. Goldsmith, we'll keep going.
It's not compulsory, but it's a tool available to retailers who need that help. And, you know, I've been out and I was just actually talking to retailers from Manuira yesterday who said, we have noticed over the last 3 years the big difference in the overall sense of law and order. We've noticed it, we feel safer, and there's still much more work to do, and that's why we're handing out extra tools to help people who have got this available.
Right, I just want to make sure everyone's totally clear on this. The changes that you have introduced shifted the time parameters around the restrictions for citizens' arrests. They removed language that prevented people from striking a shoplifter. They also included explicit language that says restraints can be used, things like zip ties. So theoretically, under the laws you have introduced, you can both hit and zip tie a 14-year-old.
Well, you can't use unreasonable force, and you do need to follow the instructions of the police.
Okay, so
Yes, there you go,
Hang
Joe.
on.
And in that heightened situation when that shop owner is having a crime committed against him and he will be incensed, he or she, obviously, for all right reasons, that person will make a perfectly justified, sane and rational decision on how much force they're going to use. Because now they know, government said I can smack you up a bit, get to it. Chewy.
So you got to follow the instructions of the police. So someone comes in to rob you, you call the police, you got a phone in one hand, cricket bat in the other, zip ties in the back pocket. You're beating this guy with your cricket bat and trying to zip tie him because that's what the cops on the phone told you what to do. What's going on here? Like one thing I can tell you for sure is the reaction to this from my employer, who I will not name. But they came out with a brief that we all had to read and sign that was very, very clear what that company's expectations were. And it was like, although the law has changed, we are not changing our positioning, and you must not put yourself in danger. That is the preeminent thing. Everything else can be replaced. Do not put yourself in danger. Do not attempt to restrict someone or do anything. Just don't do it. Like, and this is what the attitude is from the Retailers Association. Here we have a situation now where, because what Mr. Goldsmith says there, it's up to the retailer whether they do this or not. That's not going to affect what the shoplifter thinks.
Appropriate level. Appropriate
it's
level
deliberately
is also relative. What you think is appropriate might be different from what I think is appropriate.
This is going to put retailers, shop workers in a position of greater uncertainty, for whether the bad person is going to come in armed and ready for a fight,
which they will.
They don't know. They don't know whether the place that they're going into has said don't do anything.
Yep.
Or fucking, yeah, it's Street Fighter 4, go for it. Grab those cigarettes. So they're going to come in loaded for bear. And then the other aspect is, if they do respond, then there is that deliberately grey aspect of what is reasonable force.
Yeah.
Like, this is bad from start to finish. If they, and let's be clear, this problem that they're solving is not retail crime. Okay, it's just not. The problem that they're solving is we want to stay the government, and this is good posturing.
Well, Chewy.
But the retail crime aspect of this is a symptom of so many things. The shitty economic situation that a lot of people have found themselves in because the economy is fucked. And the fact is that we are hemorrhaging police as well. So the police are having to triage what they do as well.
Did you watch this interview as well? Because if you didn't, I have a question for you.
I haven't watched the Goldsmith one. I got through Qiulae's one, but not Goldsmith's one.
So here's the question for you. They're talking about retail crime. There was one advisor's name, because of course the question is, where is your advice coming from, Mr. Goldsmith? There was one advisor's name that Goldsmith mentioned in this whole thing. Can you guess who it was?
Sonny? Have we found
Bingo.
Sonny again?
Bingo.
This is what this feels like, is that this whole policy is not for all retailers. It's not for all shopkeepers. It is for dairy owners.
Yep.
They have upturned this entire apple cart through the advocacy of one very specific type of retailer.
And so he was the only name that was mentioned, by name. Oh, I've been speaking to retail. Oh, I've been speaking to people. Been talking to Sonny Costello. That was the only name that was mentioned. Here's the thing before we go into the next clip, which is actually the perspective of the Retail New Zealand boss. Jack Tame is about to talk about her. I just want you guys to know who the her is in this instance, because we're kind of jumping halfway through the conversation about her. It's the Retail NZ boss. That's the her in a second. But the reason the three strikes law is dangerous is if that person, that offender, realizes they're on their third strike, they will do anything to not get caught, because they know if they get caught, they're going to have the book thrown at them. Exactly the same theory is going to last with this. If shoplifters, if people nicking for cigarettes, if people nicking to provide things for others know that the person behind the counter may now have a baseball bat because the shop counter thinks that's reasonable force, then what do you think the shoplifter is going to walk in with? This is going to be worse and make people less safe. Like everyone. I know many of you may not care about the shoplifter being left safe. I care about them as a person, but many won't because they're the original offenders. But everyone in that circle, from the shop owner to anyone else in the shop, to anyone outside the shop as the shop lifter is running off or whatever, to the shoplifter, are going to be in more harm's way because of this legislation. So let's get to that clip now. This clip is talking about the perspective of the retail New Zealand boss. As I said, when Jack Tamer says her, H-E-R, that's who he's talking about, the head of retail New Zealand.
So from her perspective, she says this dramatically increases the likelihood of serious injury or even death. You don't agree with it, but that's her perspective, right? But one of the...
I don't know if he ever answered, why don't you agree with that? Because that's where you'd want to know, where's the research?
Concerns she had was not just that staff members intervening might put themselves at risk.
Yeah.
It's that someone who was committing a crime now knows that you have given shopkeepers the right to hit them, the right to mechanically restrain them.
Yep.
And in her perspective, she thinks that makes it more likely those shoplifters will commit acts of violence in committing crimes in the first place.
Yeah,
Why is she wrong on that?
Well, because the alternative is the other problem, which is to say, if the...
It's not the question, Mr. Goldsmith, not what the alternative. The question is, why is she wrong? Why is she wrong that Captain Shoplifter is now not going to walk in with a baseball bat? Why is she wrong? That's the question, Mr. Goldsmith, not let's do a comparison to the opposite.
Message that we send is you just go into a shop, grab whatever you like, you can walk out, nobody will stop you. That is what we saw, and that was part of what has led to that sense of lawlessness that 3 years ago everybody, it was the number 2 issue in this country that people were worried about. And so we've sent a different message. We do not believe in the kind of culture of excuses that if you steal stuff it's somebody else's fault, it's society's fault, you can understand it because times are tough. We don't agree with that. We believe in accountability.
Because then we'd have to think through, why are times tougher right now? Have we contributed to it? Does that therefore mean, gosh, are we contributing to this thing? Let me say something else as well, really, really clearly. When he talks about this, right, and he talks about there's other things they're not going to consider, what they're doing is they're changing the position of where the danger is. So let's just say under the old laws, no one here, I think, thinks that Goldsmith is painting it exactly accurate, but we've all seen pictures of people filling up their trolleys and walking out of a supermarket. There, the danger is to losing some money from stuff in a shopping cart that will be insured, that you will be able to get back, but it's kind of a financial hit. What they're changing it to is a hit to a person. What they're changing it to is that security guard at that supermarket now intervening and a fight starting and someone gets stabbed. So this government is very, very clearly saying we are valuing the goods more than the people selling the goods. Because under this law that they're talking about previously, it was the goods that were the things that were getting stolen and the finances for the business that they had insurance for. Now under this new law, the danger is to the people. So that's where these guys are shifting it. They're shifting it away from business having to claim on their insurance and back to, let's say, the public health sector for all the broken bones and stabbings that are going to happen, let alone deaths or anything like that that could come from it. If I was to say to you, Mr. Goldsmith, if you could either have an insurance claim or a dead person stabbed, which would you pick? Because your government is picking, I'll have the dead person who's stabbed. Because at the moment, it's the insurance claim. That's where I would go for. I would rather have an insurance claim, even if I was the business owner, which is what I think what the retail New Zealand boss is getting at. Even if I was the business owner, I would rather have the insurance claim than one of my staff being injured or a shoplifter being stabbed or broken or whatever.
Yeah.
That's where I would go. This government is going, no, I think we'd rather have the broken arm and the stabbed person. Well, if they don't actively want that, the policy they're setting up is going to give that. Chewy.
The other aspect that I'd say here is something he said earlier in this interview that said that retail crime and shoplifting and theft and that sort of thing would affect prices. That's bad, right? Because everybody knows that the prices are a lot at the moment anyway. So shoplifting for most places is a fucking rounding error. Like stock loss of expired goods or damaged goods and that sort of thing would be higher than shoplifting in most cases. If you see how much waste a something like a supermarket throws out, would dwarf what is stolen.
Yeah.
Like even the high end stuff, and then that's a rounding error in their profits. Like even if theft went away tomorrow, do you think the supermarkets would be dropping their prices? Do you think your corner shop would be? No, it's already factored in. Like it's annoying. As a retailer, I hate thieves, but there is no way that I want myself or my workmates putting themselves in harm's way for a company that ensures this stuff, that factors it into its operational expenses. It's just so dumb. This man has never worked in a shop.
That's very true.
All right. That also drives me batty.
Okay, let's get to the end of this clip. This is still talking about the perspective of the retail New Zealand boss.
Strong on law and order. And 3 years ago, we campaigned on restoring law and order. Now we're campaigning on staying strong on law and order because the alternative is to go back.
So if the message you have sent is that you are more likely to be zip-tied and to be hit if you go and steal something,
Yes.
Does that increase the likelihood that...
Sorry, I just wanted to... Can we just highlight that moment from Jack Tame? Can we just highlight that? Hey, zip it. Speaking of zip time, zip it. I'm not finished. Just, again...
to be hit if you go and steal something.
Yes.
Does that increase the likelihood that someone committing a crime will resort to violence?
No, because I think...
Based on what?
We're based on the assumption that New Zealand...
Based on an assumption?
No.
I mean, because this is what Retail NZ said, this is what the Police Association said.
Yes.
Based on an assumption or based on
We're giving retailers an extra tool to be able to deal with chaos in their communities.
I'm asking from the perspective of someone committing a crime.
And look,
they now know that they're more likely to face physical resistance, they'd be hit, they can be tied up. So why wouldn't they be more likely to...
Because I trust the retailers to make sensible decisions at the right time. And there will be some who will say, put out a little clear message right on the front, don't worry, you can steal whatever you like and nobody will stop you. And that's fine. But there will be others who want to actually defend their property and do that properly. But the main thing is that they need to ring the police and follow their instructions.
Indeed. That's not what I asked, though, is it? I asked about the perspective of the people committing the crimes. Now, move on.
I'd be very interested to know that if Mr. Goldsmith was sitting in his house, and obviously this is just hypothetical, I'm not suggesting anything, but someone like kicked the door in and came to take his TV, I'd be very interested to see if Mr. Goldsmith would, I'm going to push back. I'm going to protect my stuff. Or would he just sit on the couch and go, yeah, look, I need to be safe. My kids, my family needs to be safe. Take what you want and leave. Because he seems to be saying that the correct thing to do when property is look like it's going to be taken or challenged is to physically fight back, but only an appropriate level. I just wonder what he or any of our politicians would do if they were put in the situation. Let's say that they're in the trolley one in front of the person running out of the supermarket. Do we think that they're going to be the ones to jump in and tackle and put themselves in harm's way should this happen? Or do we think they're, like most other people would, probably for the right reasons, go, I don't want to be stabbed today. Might only be a 1% chance. I'm not taking that risk. Let them through. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I'm also going to say, because he keeps on coming back to this well of like, I trust people to make the right decisions. As you've said, Pat, these are untrained people.
Of course.
Now, let's talk about someone who's trained to deal with something like this, who's trained to use physical force to restrain and apprehend evildoers. have the police always used appropriate levels of force?
No, there would be a no.
That would be a no. Right. So someone that has gone through training, who understands or supposedly understands the law that they're enforcing and the risk to life and property and that sort of thing. Sometimes those guys make mistakes.
Yep.
And yet Minister Goldsmith is fine to trust a sole dairy owner at 11 o'clock at night with a cricket bat behind his counter to make the right choice.
It'd be fun one day to be like in the room when Jack's doing this and just be able to whisper in his ear, ask him if he'd tackle a burglar. Ask him if he'd tackle a burglar, what would he do? But, you know, we'll leave it at that. All right, one more clip. And there is plenty of other things that we're not featuring, obviously, as we've said. We're not really looking at the move-on orders. The move-on orders, Qiulae, we could have probably done a 40-minute piece on just by themselves. And Jack Tame's very good point for that is basically, where are they going? He talks about, you know, night shelters. He talks about there's no place for these people to go to. Where do they go to? And C3PO tries to kind of push it away, going shelters, and there's people deal to handle that. And then, of course, Jack goes through, well, MSD is closed through the weekend. How do they, someone's in a crisis moment and they're getting moved on at, 11 o'clock on a Saturday night. What happens? Where do they go? And, of course, there are just no answers. But where we're going to get to, I think, and I actually think constitutionally it's a really important thing to look at, is the changes these guys have made to enrollment. And again, I'll give you a juxtaposition. If you could pick either 3 days longer to finish a vote or 100,000 people not being able to vote, which would you pick, Mr. Goldsmith? I know I'd say, well, actually, it's part of our democratic process. It's a right that we've all got. It's much more important to make sure everyone can vote than an extra 3 days. So this is in two parts. I'm not playing the first part where they're talking more about the enrollment. The second part of the conversation, they started talking about special votes.
And that's all we're doing.
If someone enrolls late, they cast a special vote. The Electoral Commission says special votes are much more likely to come from younger voters, Māori and Pacifica voters. Those demographics are also more likely to support your political opponents. Given you haven't even bothered to model for a middle ground compromise where people can continue to enrol in the advance voting period.
Important to probably just highlight that. So Labor changed that you could enrol on the day. Before that, the previous model was you could enroll up to the day before. So what Jack's talking about now is they're not even taking the middle ground, which is to enroll up into the day before. They've done this 13 days thing. So just to give you the context, because that was talked about in the last 4 minutes before this.
As we had for 3 elections under John Key's government, why should anyone believe this is anything more than a cynical effort to suppress your political opposition?
Well, if that's your logic, then it would have been a cynical effort 6 years ago when Labor introduced same-day voting in order to help their voters.
That's why I've asked you about a middle ground.
I didn't see you asking them that 6 years ago.
That's why I've asked you about a middle ground, Minister.
Get consistent. Look, what we're doing is asking, it's a perfectly reasonable thing. If you live in Australia, you need to be enrolled 30 days before the election.
Australia has compulsory voting.
So
it's
what?
an entirely different system.
Well, no, we've got compulsory enrolment, and we've had compulsory enrolment. It is the law for people to be enrolled.
Yes.
Right now, there's
Different when it's a compulsory vote.
I'll tell you this. I was looking for a thumbnail today, and
It is the law.
There was quite a lot of this going on in this interview. Like, it's not a oncer. And I'm not saying it was an interesting observation. It's like, I don't know whether he's choosing to be animated, he's frustrated, it's an aggressive thing, but probably, I don't know, 4 to 6 times. There's a lot of this going on in this interview. I was just interested by watching it.
For people to be enrolled.
Yes.
Right now, there's
Different when it's a compulsory voting.
Yeah,
though,
but no different at all. 89.3% are enrolled right now in New Zealand, and I've got every confidence that people will get enrolled in time. The problem with the change that Labor made was that you've got this electoral commission telling people, please get enrolled, because that makes the whole system much more efficient. But they were also saying, but by the way, don't bother, you don't need to, because you can just rock up and enroll when you vote. And that mixed message is the reason why fewer and fewer people were getting enrolled.
I think if you have a look at it,
That's correct.
The reason same-day voting was such a good idea, same-day enrollment was such a good idea, is many people get to go to vote and they're not on the roll. And it's not through them being lazy or anything like that and deciding not to. I mean, like I think Ginny Anderson put out that she wasn't on the roll for some reason. There'd been a clerical error and she wasn't on the roll, and so she had to re-enroll. I haven't looked at mine. I'm assuming I'm on. I've been on it for about 400 years. I know. I will. I promise. I've been on it for about 400 years. If I don't look within the allotted time period, which I'm sure will be fine, and I will, then I'd be rocking up to the polling station looking for it, and they'd say, "You're not here, Mr. Man." And I'd be like, "But hang on, what?" And then I don't get to vote. So the reason that same-day enrollment was so important is for people who, basically for administration errors. And remember, it's not the same-day enrollments that was the big thing. It was the couple of weeks leading up to the election. 400,000, I believe. It was something like 100,000 on the day, but 400,000 leading up to it. I'll look up those numbers if you want. And those are all eliminated as well. And again, even more so, young people, students, people moving houses, people who have missed the enrollment pack coming to their house. There's lots of reasons why it's a good thing. And I'll say it now, and we've said it before, and I'm sure we'll say it again. Any government, any political party, any group out there that wants to make voting harder are not being a good part of the democratic process. No. The only thing these guys should be doing is trying to make voting easier. They are making it exponentially harder. Drew, this has got about 35, 40 seconds. Do you want to play this, or do you want to jump in now?
No, go.
Play? All right, here we go.
When you vote. And that mixed message is the reason why fewer and fewer people were getting enrolled, and we're having more and more special votes. So it's just a simple efficiency thing, getting the thing organised. I do not believe, I mean, if there are parties out there saying this is going to hurt our voters particularly, well, geez, I think they should vote for somebody else. If they've got such low expectations of their voters, if they think their voters are uniquely incapable of getting enrolled, well, that's not a great look. I think I've got every confidence that New Zealanders can get enrolled, get voting, get on with it.
Get enrolled, get voting, and get on with it. Just if we were to rephrase this slightly, what he's saying is everyone is going to be well organised. I hope they do the same in I hope they no longer allow people, let's say, for example, to put their GST returns in a bit late because they were getting behind and they didn't get around to it. I hope they crack down on all of those things and they actually start going, your GST is due on the 20th of this month, we're cutting it up on the 18th. Because you've got plenty of time to do it. We've got plenty of time to do it. We'll just cut it off there. And if you don't do it, well, we're coming after you. Qiulae?
Yeah, anything that makes it harder to vote should be looked upon very suspiciously. Anything that the end result is it's going to disenfranchise people or mean that people don't get to register their choice in their elections should be looked upon with distrust. The amount of bullshit, just outright bullshit, like his little comment about, like, if any party's saying it's going to affect their voters, well, blah, 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 blah. No party is saying that. None. What they're saying is that people deserve to be able to vote, that we need to have the mechanism. Like, who cares if someone rocks up on the day to vote? The fact is that they chose to vote. That's what the democracy is. If you remove people from democracy, it weakens it. It doesn't make it stronger. And if their end game is that they want to save some time on the vote counts, well, we know how much time that's going to save, and it's so minimal.
Yep. And look, Qiulae, and I love giving you credit, and I will always give you credit for something that you said first. The last election that apparently took so long to get all the vote, there was a victory speech on the night of the election. And remember, I did the work, and even though I did the work, I can't remember it now, by going to the Electoral Commission and got the timeline of the overseas votes. Because the overseas votes have to come back in their actual containers. The whole thing comes back and then it gets counted. And that's at least 2 weeks. And when we worked it all out, it was about a 3-day difference. So here's the two situations, guys. Either, because remember, the only reason they're giving is to speed up the count. That's the only reason they're giving. So you have two options. You have an official result 3 days later, or you have 400,000 New Zealanders who can't vote, who won't get to take part in the democratic process this election. 3 days or 400,000 disenfranchised New Zealanders
shit equation.
not being able. Well, these guys are picking the 3 days. It's much like we were saying before. They're picking the beaten up store owner over the insurance. This one, they're picking the 3 days over the 400,000 people voting. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that.
Two other things I'll say. Mark my words, we will know who the major party of government will be by about, what, 8:30 on election night?
I mean, like, we can't quite say that. We may do. There has been times before where, like 2017, it took longer than that because Winston did have the balance of power. Like, if we get to some sort of situation and we're talking,
I'm not talking about
opportunity.
the whole of government.
Oh, it
wasn't
depends.
It wasn't a question of whether Winston Peters was going to, New Zealand First was going to be the biggest party. We'll know which one, whether it's Labour or National. That's
I guess what I'd say is it's likely that we'll know the winner on the night. If we get some kind of knife edge election and let's say opportunity is there, we will not know on the night and we will not know the day after. So yeah,
well,
but it's
I think you're missing what I'm saying there.
Okay, I'm sorry.
We are going to know whether the major party of government is going to be National or Labour.
Oh, you're talking about the biggest party.
Okay, they're the two largest parties.
Okay,
now,
yeah,
that
sure.
will
Sorry,
give you
I
an
apologise.
idea of the shape of government from that point, who they've ruled out, who they're likely to negotiate with, that sort of thing. You're not going to sit there and go, oh, well, Labour's got most of the vote. I wonder if they'll go into coalition with ACT. You know, we know that sort of thing. And the rest is just horse trading. And it's horse trading that we're not involved in.
I mean, the only other thing I would say, and sorry, I got that completely wrong and I apologise, but what I was saying was if opportunity is there and if Labour is the biggest party, which they're likely to be, we may know who the biggest party is, but we won't have any inclination as to the angle of government. Because if they are the kingmaker and they've already said they could go with either side.
Oh no, I think we have to take Mr. Christopher Luxon at his word. He has ruled
for
out
the first time ever.
opportunity.
Yeah, right.
He's ruled them out. He's never gone back on what he said.
Let's do some super chats and let's go and have a look at the the debate in the weekend, and some other interesting things that we learned through the weekend. We want to say huge thanks to all of our super chatters. We appreciate you guys. The trained police have allegedly used excessive force when arresting. Allegedly. Good use of the word allegedly there, Speedlock. Thank you for your super chat. Look at the USA for citizens arrests gone wrong, 100%. I mean, look at the USA for ICE arrests gone wrong. For the police
Look at
arrests
USA
gone wrong.
for any bad
Look
idea.
at USA. Pete says that includes a baseball bat behind the counter. Yep, good point. Stacks girl, Goldsmith clearly doesn't have a conscience. Wooming, nice to see. Oh, there you go. Look, there's the OG green, Chewy. I can see he's in his photo with his OG green. Goldsmith converting New Zealand to the US. Yeah, I guess that kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Speed locked again. Rather than fix the problem, they fix the symptoms. Cookie Monster. Goldsmith, are we the baddies? Very good. That's actually a very good t-shirt. Front bench of the national government. Are we the baddies underneath? If only we knew someone who made t-shirts, Julie. Citizen Gold, Pat, it's super quick. Do it live on the show. My brain's mush. What
Talking
am I doing?
about checking your voting registration, which would be an
Gotcha.
excellent way to dox yourself, by the way.
But I've got this one. But okay, look, I'll open it now. You can do any more chat. I think this is for the DCC though. I don't think it's my actual voting paper. I'm having a look right now. I've shown this a few times, never with the camera. This is Dunedin City Council. Yeah, this is the DCC. Yep, that's the DCC one. Done. Can I do it online?
Yeah, you go to vote.nz.
All right, here we
Super
go.
easy. Hey,
I'm doing it live.
People in the chat. People in the chat.
Let's all
you
do it
can
now.
do it now too.
Yep,
You
come
can
on.
follow
we're stopping.
along with Patthew.
I'm not going to put
We're
the
all going
details
to
in.
vote NZ. All the cool
Vote
kids are
NZ,
doing it.
all of us are doing it. Where am I going to check? Show me where. Enrolling. Enroller update. Get ready to enroll. Enrollment
Hit the big
information.
buttons. Use the big buttons.
It says
Enroll
enroll to
or
vote.
update your details. It's
Where
right
does it
there.
say? Where? That
Hey,
one.
remember, Pat,
Oh, that
what I told you
That
it was
one.
like trying to teach a boomer
Well, I
how
was
to
looking
log
at-
into Facebook on their
Yeah,
phone.
but I was looking.
It's
I
like
was
this.
looking.
It's
I
my
was looking
waking
at
night.
that, and you're looking at that. So I'm gonna turn the
clicky
screen
bit.
off now, and I'm gonna click on the clicky bit. I want to check our update online, and my first names is Sir
Do you
Wilfred
remember that?
Pringles.
Can you spell Patthew?
I do. There's a click box for. I do not have any first names. Oh my gosh.
Yes, that is because some people from some parts of the world, on their driver's license or New Zealand identity, they only have a last name.
Yeah, right.
That's fun to deal with.
I've done something to my
Every
keyboard.
system is set up
Is
for
it
that.
one? I've done something to my keyboard and I've lost the numbers, so I have to use the stupid ones up the top. 14.
Look, at this rate, I'm ready to go. You know, some people don't deserve to be able to vote. This is difficult.
I'm using my left hand. Oh gosh, my address. What's my address? 196,412.
Okay. Well, and the time it's taken Pat to work out how a website works, I've checked mine.
Search. Patrick, you're enrolled. There you go.
Yay!
I've checked. Can I show this one? Oh no, it's got my address on it.
Pat's shown a really bad example, like if you have to show your parents how to do it, or you know, that sort of thing. That's a worst case scenario on how long it takes to check if you're.
If you're going to tease me, I'm just going to point out that you just said it's the worst case scenario. So are we going to play this game all night, pointing at each other's foibles? Are we? You did. You said worst case scenario. Come on now. Come on now. Play the take back. No, we're doing it live. There you go. I've done it. Can we just say before we get into this last, sorry, not the last for us, but the next segment, we had a huge, I mean, like we were talking about you guys on the weekends, the patrons. There's been some new patrons sign up since the conversation, since the happening. Thank you so much for being a part of what you do. We are obviously got a bit of funding from some other places for these conversations, these debates, these panels, but as is always the case, the patrons are sort of the foundation that we look forward going, like, if we have no other source of income, can we do X? Can we go to Waitangi? And that's how we make our decisions moving forward. If you want to be a part of us and support Boomer FM trying to look through websites, then patreon.com/Big Hairy News. Also, we can see that the finance debate link is on the front page. I have to tell you, that's about a third, right? That's a third left of tickets. Like, so these will sell out. We basically sold out Auckland, but there were some on Saturday. Because these will sell out. Oh my goodness. 5 free tickets to Wellington, Dunedin events. What do we do? Because that's 5. Should we do them for, let's do them. We'll do them for Wellington because Wellington seems to have more of a, so that means we've got 10 free tickets at the moment as well. So if you would like to come to Wellington, but you don't have the funds to get there, then hit us up. Events at bhn.nz. We've got 10 tickets that we can give out to people who can't afford them, and you can come along. But as I said, that one's going to sell out because it's already 2/3 sold, and there's still basically 2 full work weeks to go. All right, Qiulae, after you've embarrassed me, let's get into something a bit less embarrassing. So let's talk about the debate. Okay. Yeah, thank you, Gold. That was very, 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 very generous. And people will definitely use those tickets. So well done, sir. Okay, people. You heard us talk on Thursday night about the cancellation of David Seymour. David Seymour cancelled himself. Actually, that's interesting. They always talk about cancel culture, and he cancelled himself.
That's what he meant.
And I had a chat with him on the phone that evening, the Thursday evening. But I thought what we should do, Qiulae, is just go back and actually have a closer look as to what happened, because I transcribed the conversation that I had with David Seymour, and this is all 100% real and true. There's no gags here. If there was, we could be done for defamation. So in that conversation that I had with David Seymour, when he said he wasn't going to come, these are some of the things he said. He said, we looked at the mood and experience that Todd had, and we just don't see why we'd do it.
We did traumatize Todd Stevenson, to be fair. It was very clear.
He said, as far as I can tell, every time Todd opened his mouth, a whole lot of people started jeering and booing. Factually incorrect. People who were there know that's the case. He also said, I don't want to subject myself to that. So what he's saying is, David Seymour, and the people around him, you could read that again when I blow my nose, Joe.
You want me?
Or you could just wait.
You want me to read it again?
No, that's all right. That's right. I just need to turn my mic off for 1 second. So what he's saying is, because see what he says here, as far as I can tell. So David Seymour saying from what he saw, right, as far as I can tell, when I was watching it, as far as I can tell, there was all this unfairness. Now, later in the conversation, David Seymour admitted to me that he'd never watched the debate. He didn't see it. Because I asked him about the performance of the moderating, and he said, well, I didn't watch it. He didn't watch the debate, but as far as I can tell, people were mean to Todd. And so he said, I don't want people to be mean to me. I don't want to subject myself to that. I felt really bad, Qiulae, about this, actually, because, I mean, like, even though we may have a different perspective on politics, I don't want someone to come to our debates and go away feeling sort of attacked, really. So let's have a listen. I haven't watched this before, Qiulae. I'm sure you can't remember it either, but I'm sure there's going to be tears. There's going to be sadness. I mean, obviously, you know, like Todd was treated so badly, so badly that David Seymour just could not go because it would just be unfair to put him in the same kind of situation like how Todd was treated. Let's see what Todd said about how he was treated.
You've just run the Dunedin Gauntlet.
Yeah, well, I went to university here, so I pretty much knew what to expect. And I actually, first ever ACT campaign back in 1996, I helped run here in Dunedin. So familiar territory. But look, yeah, really well organised event, I've got to say. So congratulations to you and the rest of the team.
Thank you. Look, I've got to hand out a bouquet here. I appreciate the fact that you've come down to participate in the debate and in a room that I'm sure you probably realised wasn't going to be 100% on your side.
Oh, no, that's right. But they were very well behaved. Generally, the crowd, I got to say, you know, we felt well looked after. And that's what democracy is about, right? Different people having different views. And I've got to say, you've run a very well run event. So,
cool.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you so much for your time. And
Well, good. All the best of luck with the others. I know some of my other colleagues are joining you for some of the other debates.
Yeah,
so.
I don't think they are. That's the point. But I'm confused now, Qiulae, because there seems to be. You guys might not have picked up on it, so there seems to be a kind of a slight and subtle difference. I mean, David Seymour said, as far as I can tell, whilst never watching the event, every time Todd opened his mouth, a whole lot of people started jeering and booing. Todd said, who was there in the room, that the crowd were very well behaved. He said, it's what democracy is about. Different people having different views. David Seymour went, I don't want people to be angry with me. Todd said, this is democracy. Getting into a room with people with different positions, even a very well-behaved crowd, and talking. David said, I don't want people to disagree with me in public. That's the truth. We had some people from South Auckland basically saying that New Zealand first. I've got less to say about Casey Costello because she didn't give us a lot of feedback afterwards, other than she seemed pretty happy. There certainly weren't any words afterwards, but because we have evidence for this, that what David Seymour is selling is bullshit, we want to bring it to you. We had people in South Auckland say to us, they're taking this as the government's not interested in South Auckland. And I'm interested because I'm kind of like, shit, are we the fall guys here? Are we and our merchandise, for example, which is one of the things that New Zealand First cited, the reason that these guys get to get out of South Auckland blaming us rather than facing a crowd from South Auckland? I've got some other stuff, Qiulae, but you want to jump in? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, there's a couple of things I want to say there. First of all, Casey Costello, with her cancellation of attending the treaty discussion this week, I actually don't hold it against her. Like if National weren't going to be there and then ACT pulled out, that would just leave her representing the government's side of things, and I think. I don't blame her for pulling out at that point. Like, it's disappointing.
I do blame them for their reasoning, though. The reasoning,
and that's fair.
The reasoning, and I can probably read it. I think maybe I haven't read the Casey Costello one. No, because they did it after the show, didn't they? Maybe I should read the Casey Costello one out so people know. Because part of the reasoning was.
But while you're looking, looking at
Yep.
that, I'll also say, look, that wasn't the only conversation that we had with Todd. He honestly was pleased
He
as
had
punch
fun.
to be
He
there
had a good
at the
night,
start. He was still happy at the end. And every single comment that we have had about Todd Stevenson's appearance at that debate, even from the most vehement lefty, was like, good on him for turning up. Because this is the thing, out of this whole discussion, like all the negative comments towards BHN for bringing this to people's attention, a lot of the times it is, what do you expect? You guys are lefties.
Yeah.
Expand out from that these politicians should only speak to people that already agree with them, that already vote for them. That's a slippery slope that you're going down there.
Well, let's expand on that. This was something I'm going to say at the end, but I'll say it now. Is the only pushback we've had from people is like, well, isn't this going to be a lefty love fest on Saturday night? And our response has been, yes.
We didn't make that.
Yeah. Now, why is it a lefty love fest? Because you guys walked away. Because it wasn't a lefty love fest when Casey Costello and David Seymour were coming. It was a debate. And then they left, and we were so lucky to have people step in and turn it into an unbelievable event. The other thing, of course, we're getting, which we get a lot, everyone gets it actually, is, oh, you're just talking to your echo chamber. And it's a little bit like, again, yes, but on Thursday, the government was in that chamber with us, and then they walked out of it. So what I will not put up with anymore is, I don't care about trolls on Twitter and that kind of stuff, but actual criticism from anyone who has a position or something about our audience and who we speak to, because not only have we tried, we've actually succeeded and we've booked, and then we've pulled out. Then they've pulled out. This is from New Zealand First. Hi, Pat. Unfortunately, we've had to pull out of this one. Pardon me. We agreed to be represented at the debates with initial concerns about impartiality because we thought it would get our party's positions across based on feedback from our team who attended the first Dunedin event and the revelation that BHN is selling Ditch the Pricks and 26 merchandise. It's hard to justify our own supporters. No, we didn't. We've done lots to make it more comfortable for them. There are plenty of other debates we can spend our time on. I'm yet to speak to Shane and Andy about the attendance at the finance and education events. We'll let you know as soon as I can regarding those two. I'll say a couple of things. We set up a whole bunch of things, including we didn't sell Ditch the Prick stuff at either of the events out of respect. I get it. We do get it. But they obviously also did zero research. How much of that is on them? That basically, I've been speaking to them since April, May, and a day before the second thing, they go, what? You guys have this merchandise? Again, it just doesn't ring credible. Couple of things. We got asked by David Seymour, why should I do this? What's in it for me? Why should I attend? I'm paraphrasing now. It's not a direct quote. Well, if you didn't see the event on Saturday night, here is an email. We've had, I have to tell you, we've had numerous people, Qiulae, on my Twitter feed right now are agreeing with me. People who disagree with us politically are agreeing. Yes, I know. Twitter? I know. Go and have a look if you like. So this is an email that I got probably Saturday. It says, I'm a 50-year-old, gave all the details, I've redacted that, in Hawke's Bay, married with 3 teenage kids. I listen every day to your show and replay, and even though I don't agree with 90% of your views, I thoroughly enjoy what you guys do and hearing a different opinion. I watched and listened to your debate 2 weeks ago. It was a great debate. It was refreshing to see the different perspectives. The treaty debate tonight I was looking forward to, but I was extremely disappointed to learn David Seymour had pulled out. David has let you down, and that doesn't sit well with me. I was brought up that your word is your bond, and if you commit, then you see it through. He won't be getting my vote, and I'll be contacting him to let him know that. Mate, all the best for tonight. Keep up the good work. And I thought about this for a very long while, and so after a while, I thought, well, those guys actually cost us financially. So this morning, I actually invoiced both acts.
You cheeky fuck.
And New Zealand First for the extra costs that they put on us for their withdrawal from our written agreement. So I sent them both an invoice. I think like, fuck you guys. You guys have cost us something, like financially. Like we had to refund some tickets because of that. We had to change our whole set, and because of the set being changed, we had to go out and hire some different lights. I mean, you could get down to, I got more security guards on than we needed because of David Seymour, for giving him safety and protection, should something kick off. So we are financially hit by this. And so I thought, you guys are the reason for this. They're not going to get an invoice for Wellington, because there's plenty of notice. And as I said on the night, and I'll say again today, if David Seymour had said something like, my father's just gone to the hospital, I'm going to go, we would have been like, dude, go. Of course. But basically, I don't wanna. No, homie, don't play that. But Qiulae, it's not just people who don't like us. There are also some people who like us who have been sharing some stuff about this. This is a News Talk ZB phone call on.
You must be on the. You said people that like us, and then you've gone to ZB's page. Have you made a mistake there?
I have not. Talkback call Sunday afternoon.
For a couple of quick calls, Dallas, hello.
Yeah, hi Tim. First of all, I just need to call out David Seymour. Last night he was due to appear in a debate on the treaty with Willie Jackson, Marama Davison, and Costello from New Zealand First. This is organised 6 weeks ago. All the flyers were out. The tickets were sold. Pamphlets out.
Hey,
At the
Dallas,
last minute, he cancelled.
I've got about 3 or 4 minutes, so you'll need to make your point quickly.
Yeah, just he's entitled to appear wherever he wants to or doesn't want to, but not to pull the pin 48 hours before a debate like that. It's poor form.
There you go. So that was David Seymour had just been on for an interview. So Qiulae, that's sort of where we're at right now with that. Do you want to speak to any of that? Because now we're going to very quickly just go on and just highlight some places that we've been floating around, like Radio New Zealand in the weekend and some other places.
Yeah. So the other thing that I'm going to say here is another example, right? So National didn't want to participate in any of these right from the jump. They've never come. Well, they've come back to us and said that everybody that we've requested couldn't show up. We had a little random run-in on the way back from Auckland. We ran into someone who should have been at that debate as well, Mr. Tamapotaka. What really, really funny. We mentioned why we were in Auckland. He says, "Oh, you should have had me on."
No, he said, "Oh, when was that again?" He said, "Oh, when was that again?"
Oh,
like,
yeah,
when was that? When's that happening again? That's what he said, and we were like, last night." It was
that we'd been trying to contact him for 6 months.
I was about to say respect to Tama. It's not about that, but he gave us his CV. Let's be honest, Qiulae. He was rattling off to us all the things that the government has done for Māori.
Well, one of the things that he said to me is, "Who did you have on?" And we said, "Marama and Willie Jackson." And he goes, "Oh, they would have been telling you the facts. They wouldn't have been telling you the facts. They're good on the vibes, but they're bad on the facts." And I just wanted to go, that's why you're supposed to come.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter that I'm a lefty or Pat's a lefty or BHN is angled towards the left. That is not the point.
Angled towards the left? Are you going with angled? Angled.
Angled, leaning, whatever. Like,
left adjacent.
It doesn't matter. We have played these debates with a straight bat. We have taken pains to it. But at the end of the day, it is less about me and Pat and more about you want to talk to voters. Now, Tama was very, very keen to tell us everything that he'd been up to. And all of that, I was like, you know who would like to hear about this? Fucking voters that give a shit about Māori.
Maybe in like a setting of a debate, you could come out and you could share it in a public forum. That would be good, eh? Imagine if you did that. Maybe people might know.
Maybe a debate that entirely encompasses his portfolio.
Yeah.
Like it shouldn't matter who's putting it on. The Greens could have been putting it on and he would have been there. Willie on the night mentioned that he had appeared at an ACT Party conference at their invitation.
No, and the whole story as the key speaker. The keynote speaker.
And they paid him to be there. And by his description, he went there and called them racists for an extended period of time. So, I mean, this whole thing of like, we won't engage because the people are involved or the podcast, that is promoting it is the left. It's a bullshit cop-out, and it's dangerous for democracy for politicians to decide that they don't want to engage. That's on them if they do. It reflects badly on them. I have to say, as much as we've been chasing Tama, he seemed incredibly genuine that he wanted to come on the show, and we exchanged phone numbers. So we're not going through a press secretary. He said, don't go through the party. Come to me.
So that was his line.
You know what?
His line was, oh, you guys. He goes, oh, I love you guys. I've seen you on Facebook. Apparently he's 70. Oh, I love you guys. I've seen your stuff floating around. And so when he said, I love you guys, I was like, so why weren't you at the debate last night? He was like, what? And this is what he said. Oh, you guys should have me on. And then he gave me his number.
So we will take him at his word. We will extend an invitation to him, and then the ball is back in his court to see if his word is worth something. And if it is, then I will extend the same bouquet that I extended to Todd Stevenson, because this stuff should matter.
So the other places around the weekend, which is interesting that we're getting a bit of uptake, the Opportunity Party here in Dunedin. I did a podcast with them maybe 5 to 6 weeks ago. I was pretty horrible to them. No, I wasn't horrible to them. There was I saved it actually. No, I've saved it. This was my favourite line from the Opportunity podcast when they were talking about wouldn't they be a good and moderate group if they were in with National, a moderating force.
I just want to go back to your other point around this government and Luxon 2.0 being your kind of big fear. Is an Opportunity National coalition not a better option than another National Act New Zealand First coalition?
I mean, eating a handful of shit's better than a bucket full of shit as well. You know, it's like, is that the yardstick?
So I've said that the whole way through, but you know what I also thought about that was so prevalent? It's like I was the one, my setup sounded better. It was their podcast and I had the best setup. And I think that kind of actually gives a good indication of, to me, who Opportunity is. It's like everyone around them seems to got it together and is doing their stuff, but the actual party seems to be in a bit of disarray, which we're going to get to in just a wee while. And finally, Qiulae, a really significant interview and, yeah, very profound. Thank you, Rogers. Obviously, what I'm saying is Opportunity in with the government's still shit. It might be a little bit less shit. It's still shit. I'd rather eat the non-shit option, please. At least try. I'd like to at least try to eat the non-shit option. You know, if they get back in again, maybe we're all eating shit for another 3 years. But let's at least try to eat the non-shit option. And then, of course, Qiulae, Colin Peacock last week got a hold of me, wanted to know about the debates, wanted to know about National, not participating, yada yada yada. And I just thought I'd give a little segment to give people a taste if they want to go listen to it. And it was 20 minutes, nearly 20 minutes. That's a big chunk of time on RNZ. This was my favourite bit. And Qiulae, don't worry, it's the bit that I sound really bad as well, like I'm bored with my job.
Well, as we heard earlier, it was one story in the New Zealand Herald about a possible plot against the Prime Minister that triggered all that leadership drama this week. And one of the first outlets to react after the Herald scoop went online last Monday night was Big Hairy News, or BHN for short. It's a webcasting operation run out of Dunedin by former...
I do hate that he called it webcasting, because that's just filling in fucking Plunkett's narrative. It's like, we're a podcast. We're broadcasting, we're a podcast. Come on, we don't have to play his game.
By former radio host Pat Brittenden, who was live within 1 hour of that Herald scoop.
They had fielded several calls about a potential leadership change. The speculation was triggered by Christopher Luxon's announcement on Thursday he supported an MME referendum if National wins the election. It just feels so funny that that's the tipping point. I mean, you can criticise Christopher Luxon for so many things, and him offering an opinion of, oh yeah, I'd be happy to look at that again. If that's the tipping point, it's bizarre.
Well, as you could tell from that and from other stuff in their show, Brittenden and his co-host Qiulae are no fans of the government.
The depth of talent in National's front row is a mile wide and an inch deep.
Yeah.
And those Big Hairy News podcast-style webcasts can go on a bit. Near the end of Monday's one, nearly 90 minutes in, Pat Brittenden was stifling a yawn, reading out some of the followers' messages.
Sorry.
You are right. They go anywhere. National, the same people will vote for Luxon who might get cooed. It's a poisoned chalice and unstable.
And before that, co-host Chewie took off for a wee and then came back again mid-broadcast. But that's the thing about independent digital age media. You can please yourself.
That was fantastic. That was actually longer than I hadn't queued that up properly. It was longer than I thought, but yeah, I apologise for the yawn, Whanau. I also want to say to Colin, dude, I've been working 70-hour weeks for the last fucking 6 months. Give me a break, Chewie.
And I want to say to Colin that that's the first on-air weed that I've had in 4 years.
Every other day. Lies. Yeah, so it's been an interesting old weekend, Whanau. Now, let me just say once again, we'll just jump all the way back and then we're moving on, is that the debate Saturday week in Wellington, being honest, not sure what the format's going to be yet. Chewie, just in a minute or less, the format on Sunday night, you enjoyed it? It worked? Was fun?
On Saturday night, you mean?
I guess so.
Yes. Like, it was a last minute rally. We didn't know what we were going to do. So to turn it into a discussion, especially on that topic, you know, I was reflecting on this. That was such a positive chat. Like, everybody going in the same direction, that the treaty is important, that the preservation of the Māori language and Māori culture is important to all New Zealanders. And I was glad that it was that conversation that we trialed this debate, this discussion format, rather than an antagonistic debate. You know, that was a real silver lining.
Yeah, Kirsty Fong, who we didn't know until she came on board, she basically said yes within 24 hours of us going live. Her first statement when we started was, I'm glad this is not a debate because the treaty shouldn't be debated. And I went, oh, that's a pretty good line. I quite like that thought. So it could be the perfect one. And the other ones might end up being debates still. I doubt that ACT will, I mean, ACT is already out, but I doubt that New Zealand First will want to continue to even pretend that they might be interested after they receive their invoice today. So they're probably more likely to be panel conversations, but maybe...
Well, we offer to waive the invoice if they decide to participate in democracy.
We'll give ACT a $250 appearance fee. We'll just call it even, something like that.
Yep.
Yeah. So I do wonder though if we have just pivoted. I wonder if I don't know. Maybe my ego got involved a little bit at the very start, and I thought we could have this kind of, you know, fun, bang, 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 let's bounce around, and actually really maybe who we are. And I think Chewie said this first again, is what happened on Saturday night was BHN Live. It was me and Chewie interviewing people, and it was people in the chat, i.e. the audience, asking questions of those people. So basically that was a live podcast. And I wonder if, and we're not going to change too much of the, you know, we've spent thousands of dollars on setting all of these up. So we're not going to change too much of the branding or the imaging or whatever, but maybe we start to think about them like BHN Live and just say g'day to everyone in our echo chamber. Echo, 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 echo. Because if they're not going to participate, this is the thing I said on the night. We're not going to let two princess snowflakes stop a very important conversation that should happen. So I actually don't want to spend any time thinking about ACT or New Zealand First or National, actually, for any of these. I want to put on an amazing event that's going to leave anyone feeling informed and educated by the end of it. And so maybe that kind of decision's made itself. Maybe that's what it's going to be. If, for example, you wanted to come to a slap bang debate and that's the reason you did it, refunds. Happy as. Refunds. Let us know. Refunds. I think, Chewie, that Saturday night was exponentially better than a debate. So I would suggest you stick around.
And you know what? I want to reflect back on that email, one of several emails that were remarkably similar. About people that said, hey, I don't agree with you, but I want to hear alternative positions.
Yeah.
That is what we want to do. Like, we quite often refer to crunchies in the chat. And we were talking about this over the weekend, just the BHN team. And like the reason that we really like the term crunchies is because it's almost a term of endearment.
Yeah.
You know, it's for people that don't realize what the crunchies thing is. I started calling people that don't agree with us that come into the chat, I started calling them crunchies because in a soup, if you have croutons, it improves the soup. the texture changes. And
Are you going to? I was about to say you can use Emily's bit.
Emily
bit.
built on this
Credit.
in the weekend because she's got a
Credit.
great big brain. She said the other thing with croutons is the longer they're in the soup, the more they're incorporated into the soup.
That's pretty
And that's
good.
what we want. So,
And I-
like at the debate, and I have to say this is anecdotal because I didn't get a chance to meet him. Apparently, he left pretty quickly when the debate wrapped up. But the president of Young Act was in the front row.
Well, David should
So
have
he
Snapchated
thought
him.
it was important to come and have a look. I didn't get a chance to get his thoughts, as I said. I would have liked to. If he's listening tonight, please flick us an email. Give us your honest feedback. Because again, the thing that we wanted to do with BHN was to foster discussion, was to talk about the political landscape of New Zealand. And here we are in an election year, and people want to silo themselves. They just want to hear from people that agree with themselves, and we should never put ourselves in that position. We want facts, we want discussions, we want to work through this. So that's honestly what I want. I would love for more right-leaning, right-slanted people to come on, because we can exchange views, and as long as everyone's respectful, it can kind of work. But I think our ideas are better. But we can only show that those ideas are better by contrasting them with the ideas of the other side.
Citizen Gold in the chat says, I only have one name. My full legal name is Gold. Gold. Citizen Gold. Blind Larry says another free ticket. That puts us to 11 tickets for Wellington. Well, just anyone that wants to do this between now and next week. Actually, maybe even just this week, because they'll probably be sold out by the end of the weekend. So there's 11 free tickets, as I say. If anyone needs one for Wellington, events at bhn.nz. Listen says, even the opposition voters see the bullshit. But that's right. And I was going to show, maybe I will anyway. I mean, it's not exactly a scientific survey, Qiulae, but this is a post I put up today on Twitter, which is the same as what I just said, that people left our echo chamber. I'm one of those who claim about your echo chamber, but completely agree with you. Finally agree with you on something. I've seen Qiulae go on Duncan Garner's show. Defending a position while talking to someone you completely disagree with can be difficult, but it's critical importance to actually finding good solutions. Yeah. So, it's not a massive response, but there's not that. We've got messages, we've got emails, all sorts of things from people on that side of politics going, what the fuck? Because I would be embarrassed, right? These are the guys that also go, we are the government that's best for this country. We have the solutions. They are the lunatics. We need to get in again. Cool. Come and tell us about all your solutions. No. Nope. Sorry. Nope. Well, what are we supposed to do then? Oh, there'll be plenty of other places you can hear from us. Yeah, but maybe those places will ask different questions. That's the other thing. It doesn't mean we've got the best questions, but maybe we get different questions. Isn't that what we want? As many questions as possible to these guys? Maybe. Buddhistics says, have found no pushback mentioning BHN news debate in stuff comments. Not as a focus, but an aside, e.g., I heard on BHN, jump in, normalise it. There is actually, Paul Barlow mentioned that and look, I don't want anyone to do this, and we haven't asked people to do this, but Paul Barlow said that Mr. Seymour's Facebook page was getting a bit of a crashing to do with why aren't you on BHN on Friday night, I think, and then it was a lot cleaner come Saturday afternoon, almost like someone had been in there and given sprinkled a bit of pixie dust over it. I don't know if that happened or not, but that seems to be the case as to what we're hearing. Speedlock says the government represent all of us, not just their voters. Very good. Right. Speaking of government, let's get into a conversation that is on Q&A in the weekend featuring Qiulae Wong. Yes, there are. It's one of those moments where both the left and the right, both Helen Clark and Sean Plunkett, seem to think this was a terrible interview for Qiulae Wong. And to be honest, it'll be really interesting to see the next range of polling. This could bump the polls down for them. Like, this is really bad. They talked a lot about all sorts of stuff. the donations, and they're going to cancel lobbyists, and they're going to do that's all a part of it. Qiulae and I are a slightly different position on that. Qiulae thinks that there's not such a big deal that they're kind of playing in the mud at the moment. I'm kind of more like, it's easy to say we will have our ethics come in once we are there, but at the moment we'll play in the mud. I've been someone who's been quite critical of Labour not sort of playing the game that National did with Epsom, like actually working with Te Pāti Māori to build an overhang, and Labour just refuses to do it based on their moral standings. These guys seem to be any means to an ends. Like, this is our moral stand. We're not going to adhere to it. This is our moral stand. We're not going to adhere to it, but when we get into government, then we'll begin to adhere to it. So, Qiulae doesn't think it's a big deal because it's the current rules of the day. I get that, but it doesn't sit well, I guess, with me. But what we're going to get to is one of the most serious things I think that happened in the weekend, and that was to talk about their board. Now, they've just been through a big, long conversation around who are your donors, and your donors that are giving you more money than you say should be allowed to give in donors, and what happens to those board members if they want to sort of get something changed amongst the caucus. Let's have a listen.
Between his company and donations made in his own name, that board member has donated more than $200,000 to the party this year. Is there any scenario in which you could be elected to Parliament and he and the rest of the board can overrule your decision as caucus?
No, that's not possible.
That was a really quick no. That was a really quick no. Yeah, but it was a really quick no, and it was a very confident no. And it was she is literally saying there is absolutely no way that the board can overrule the MPs or can have that kind of influence on the MPs. No, absolutely not. No way that can happen. Almost like, well, of course not. We're a party.
Paragraph 11.3 of your Constitution says the board may overrule the caucus with a 75% vote if it considers caucus decisions prejudice the party charter.
Well, that would have to be decisions that go against the party charter.
But you just said it's not possible.
Well, our caucus...
Not possible in any way. Jack asked, was there any way? And you said, nope, no possibility. But there is a possibility.
If our caucus is making decisions that go against the party charter, then there is reasonable grounds to overrule that.
So it is
caucus
possible.
Has to be...
Sorry, my question was, is it possible?
In that circumstance, clearly, yes.
Right.
But the caucus needs to focus on making decisions that are in alignment with the party charter.
But obviously that's a subjective judgment.
Yeah, very true. What's the Constitution and how it's interpreted? We've just been through a whole lot of time with Mr. Seymour talking about interpretation of the treaty. So what about the interpretation of the Constitution? What if the board disagrees with the caucus? What if, let's say, big money on the board wants to have things a certain way and they manage to get the board around them to say this goes against our Constitution for these legal reasons, and the board can then overrule the caucus. The board, the money, can overrule the elected people. Well, let's be honest. Let's be honest here, guys. The elected person. No one's voting for anyone else than opportunity except for Qiulae. It's one of my big concerns about them. If they bring in 5, 6, 7, 8 MPs, which some people are talking about, I still don't see it, but who's number 7? What kind of world experience, qualifications, reason do they have to be in Parliament as a part of a party that may be picking the next government?
They'll just put the role on Seek.
I don't want to talk Q down. She's got experience doing, working in various kind of governmental fields. I think she'll be she'll be an okay to good politician. But who are the people behind her? We have no idea. Yeah. I mean, yes, you can go and see their names. What have they been about? We have no idea. What qualifications? What qualifies them? And I don't want to hear this. Oh, they're not politicians, so then they'll be good. Yeah, well, go see your fucking surgeon that's not a surgeon then. See how that surgery goes. So let's be honest once again. New Zealand is currently voting for one person when it comes to opportunity who will bring in with her a bunch of unknowns that Chewy's always said that David Seymour has been very good at hiding his MPs in this term. That started to change in the second half of the term, or if your name's Brooke Van Velden. What about these guys that there's going to be a caucus of them that could be overruled by their board to decide which government? Imagine that. Imagine if the board overrules the caucus, tying it into the Constitution, that they can't go with party X or party Y. Because it's just been shown that the board the unelected body can overrule the caucus in certain situations?
Well, I mean, every decision, is somewhat subjective, but if you're comparing
Yes.
a question, a decision against the party charter.
But I think this is a critical point. I mean, is there any other party represented in Parliament at the moment that, to the best of your knowledge, gives the board a veto power over caucus decisions?
To the best of my knowledge, I don't know the inner workings of the other parties.
Right. I mean, the board isn't standing for Parliament, right?
No.
How is it in the interest of democratic integrity for voters to elect you when board members, who aren't standing for Parliament themselves, some of whom have donated hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to try and win power, can ultimately veto your decisions?
Well, I think you have the other extreme of that in the Green Party, for example, where the members can dictate decisions that their leaders make, and they're not elected either. So I think different parties operate in different ways. I don't know the inner workings.
Do members of the Green Party have the power to veto decisions of the
I don't know exactly, but I know that they have.
No. The caucus can go to the party and get the feeling and the votes from the party as to some decisions as to where they're going to go, but the members cannot then overrule the caucus.
A strong influence in how those.
So my question is, back to that question though. I mean, this is your policy is to clean up.
I was going to say, Qiulae, the members have a strong influence in what the Green Party does. You mean like the democratic process? Is that what you're saying? The most you're saying kind of as a defense of your weird, kooky, kind of sideways thing here, that the party that shows the most democracy by speaking to its members and voting with them, that's the party you're using to compare it to what you guys have got, which is oligarchs overruling the caucus for their own good, should they be able to tie it to the Constitution. I don't think that's the same thing.
Politics, right? It's all about democratic integrity. So you have a framing at the moment where you have a board member who's donated hundreds of thousands of dollars, both as an individual and through a company, the kind of donations you want banned. At the same time, your party's polling has substantially improved. You've told me about the airtime, the billboards that those kind of donations buy, and ultimately he's on a board that can theoretically veto your decisions as a caucus. How is that in the interest of democratic
we have
accountability?
elected board members as well, so it's not just a.
But as the members of public, we don't elect them.
No, but I think the key point there that you're making is that the caucus needs to make decisions in line with the charter, which is in the interests of New Zealanders. If the caucus is not doing that, there does need to be some accountability.
Is this?
Honestly, I mean, like, I think it's hilarious that many people out there think the media, the mainstream media, has been pro-op. Like, there's people out there who've been like, oh, they're racing it because of the media. It's like, dude, 3-4 years now we've been going, careful.
I mean, I get it from a media point of view. Like, are they
a new shiny thing.
Are they over? Are they not over? Oh, here's a big poll result. You know, it's something that's interesting. And look, Opportunity has some interesting policies. But here's the thing. None of them are going to get across a negotiating table. Not if they're on the threshold or just over. They don't have enough pull. They don't have enough experience. Q in this interview talks about how they will be announcing what their red lines, their must-haves will be. But yeah, can they get it across the negotiating table? They're not going to get a UBI. Nobody's going to touch a UBI. And that, for me, is probably the most interesting policy. Secondly, would be their land tax. Again, are you going to tell me that National's going to adopt a land tax? Are you telling me that Labour is going to adopt a land tax? Whether it's a good idea or not, I'm just saying from practical reason, these things that they're going out there on an unproven party that has never been in Parliament before, they're not going to get them.
I think it's probably quite important as well now to just show what the charter is. Qiulae,
Yes.
here's a question for you. This is part of their charter. The Opportunities Party's vision for an Aotearoa New Zealand in which individuals, our society, and our environment thrive together. Now, I guarantee that the ACT Party and the Green Party would both agree that's the New Zealand they're trying to drive towards. Now that means on the board, people who would be much further to the right might interpret that very differently to a caucus member and be able to use the charter to overrule the caucus. Their purpose, the Opportunity Party, exists to enact policy that affords every Kiwi equal opportunity to pursue their potential in ways that are socially, economically, and environmentally sustainable. The ACT Party would be down for that. They'd say yes to all of those things. Values, I mean, look, fearless honesty, not too hard, but we are our results, equitable opportunity, and their principles. Follow evidence over ideology, ensure economic properties are subject to impact on societal well-beings and environmental sustainability. And once again, we've heard this government talk about things like LNG. LNG is actually being an environmentally sustainable thing, and you've got the Green Party saying completely different. So the point that I'm making is that our board could read a policy that the caucus wants to enact very differently based on their political ideology, because many political ideologies can be tied into the same words within that charter. That, to me, is one of the scariest things. That's one of the scariest things to me. Like, what if the caucus has gone, well, we're going to go with Labour and the Greens, and then the charter goes, actually, the Aotearoa New Zealand individuals, our society and our environment thrive together. That doesn't happen under a left-wing government, so we're overruling you. And you've got to go with National. That's an extreme. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that's even a reality, but that's what I'm saying. Parties will say how those things flow differently, and they will justify it based on different ideologies. So to have a board be able to overturn you based on you doing something against the charter, when the charter doesn't say, actually, it's only 2 teaspoons of sugar and 125 mils of milk, right? There's no metric in there that's exact, is scary, in my opinion.
Yeah,
right.
I also just very quickly want to loop back to what we didn't cover there, which was them. No, thought's gone. It was
you were
there.
going to talk. You were going to talk.
shelved.
The thing that I thought about, which we're not showing on there, is the UBI. You mentioned the UBI and paying for the UBI.
Oh yeah,
and the people coming home and paying massively high taxes. This is one of the things we're not showing tonight. People coming back to New Zealand who have been away from New Zealand for more than 5 years, but less than 10. They're not eligible for a UBI, but they are going to have to pay the higher taxes to pay for that UBI. And Jack Tame was very much like, why would they come home? Yeah, why would they come home? Why would they come home if they've got
by Jack Tame?
If they've got
an answer for it.
If they've got no benefit from the UBI, but they have to pay much higher taxes for others to get it, won't they just stay in Australia? I suspect that's where you were going to go, Chewy, so I just threw it in there for you.
Yep, correct. Right. Thank you.
That's right. Yeah, and like I just don't think that's what I'm saying. That's terrible. That's terrible policy. And yeah, she looked foolish in that, but I don't think it's the most serious things. Like, so here's a conversation where we're going to talk about the UBI numbers, making the UBI numbers work. That's this part of the conversation.
Making your numbers work is pretty tight. To give every eligible adult in New Zealand roughly 20 grand a year, you need the land tax, you need to make big savings across the public service, you need to end the current benefits program as we know it, and you need that much, much higher rate of income tax. You say that 500,000 people, roughly, won't qualify for the citizens' income. How many of those people will be paying the higher income tax?
Well, all of them if they're earning money in New Zealand.
No.
Can I just say that that's a terrible answer because she's wrong. And Jack Tame's about to say that she's wrong because 500,000 people not getting the UBI includes the under 18s who aren't eligible for the... She doesn't know that. She doesn't know that, or she's forgotten that, and Jack has to correct her, which is a bad look to be the person, the singular person in a party that people are voting for who could have the balance of power, that she doesn't know off the top of her head like that who the 500,000 people are.
Higher income tax.
Well, all of them if they're earning money in New Zealand.
No, so 500,000 people, I mean, some of them might be not of a working age,
right,
for example.
Yes.
But All of them?
Well, anyone who is currently in work and is not eligible for the citizen's income, they will be subject to the different income tax brackets. And I think that the groups of people there that you might be thinking about could be, recent migrants, for example, who might not be eligible for that because of that 5-year period. And I think, that is, while I completely agree that migrants are an important part of our economy, we also need to make it attractive for New Zealanders to be getting into these jobs. We've just seen the highest levels of...
One thing that wasn't asked in this, Qiulae, because they're basically talking about getting rid of the social welfare state. So what happens to refugees? Because they'll be in that 5-year window. They won't be entitled to the UBI, but the social welfare state has been disbanded in replacement for the UBI. What happens to those kinds of people?
I think refugees come under a completely different program.
But is that handled by MSD? Because we're about to hear in the next clip as well that MSD is going to be gutted.
Yeah, I think that's a valid point. Actually, who's administering it? So yeah.
Yep. We'll keep going though.
Unemployment in a long time. We need to incentivise more local people to be employed.
I just want to be totally clear on this. Under your workings, and you've laid out the kind of core figures around your workings. Under your workings, in order to balance both the cost of the citizen's income and the various tax changes that you want to introduce, in order to balance those from a revenue and expenditure perspective, you need to have 500,000 people paying much higher rates of income tax while not receiving the citizen's income.
Well, those are people who either might be on higher incomes and, that might...
Wrong. Someone comes back from Australia and works in a dairy. This is wrong. Jack doesn't pick up on this. She's basically saying, yeah, but they'll be the wealthier people because they'll be coming back from overseas and stuff. No. That could be someone coming back to work in his father's dairy. Right? That could be someone, so this is not true. What she's saying now is inaccurate. She's basically offsetting it by saying it'll be fine because it's the wealthier ones who are coming back. No. It'll be people. I mean, many people of my era went off to the UK for 5 years and did their OE and then came back poor as a church mouse because they spent all their money on drugs through Africa and seeing every bloody cathedral there is through Europe, and they come back to New Zealand with no money. And then they start to look for a job. So we're not just talking about wealthy people. It might include wealthy people, but there'll be lots of people who are minimum wage, lower income, mid-income, who will be in there as well.
Well, those are people who either might be on higher incomes and, that might be an additional burden for them in the short term. Once they become eligible for receiving the citizen's income, that's $19,500 that they can receive every single year, which adds to their long-term wealth.
Have you modelled any wealth flight over this?
We haven't put wealth flight into our modelling.
I mean, surely if you're going to have 500,000 people in New Zealand, you say you're going to be paying way higher rates of income tax and you're not going to get the UBI, surely a lot of them are going to look to go overseas. Why wouldn't they go to Australia?
I think that the system that we are creating is actually more attractive to people who are earning high incomes, because if they don't own property, or if they own very modest amounts of property, for example, they will actually be paying less tax because of the income, because of the citizen's income, and the changes.
It doesn't make sense because she's talking about it'll be more attractive to the wealthy who don't own property. The wealthy are the ones who do own property. You know what I'm saying? It's like this doesn't make sense. So it's the non-wealthy that don't own the property, and it's the wealthy who do. But the example she gives is they may own the wealthy may own some property, or maybe they don't own property, or maybe just one. That's not the wealthy, right? That's the middle and the bottom.
Actually be paying less tax because of property, or creating is actually more attractive to people who are earning high incomes, because if they don't own property, or if they own very modest amounts of property, for example, they will actually be paying less tax because of the income, because of the citizen's income, and the changes.
The point is they're not getting the citizen's income. This is the whole thing. In order to make your numbers work, you're telling me that you've got 500,000 people you've accounted for paying much higher rates of income tax, like really substantially higher rates of income tax, and not receiving the UBI. My question is, why wouldn't those people go overseas? Why wouldn't they go to Australia?
Because we're delivering an economy which makes it more attractive to invest in businesses,
Jack misses the question here. He misses the question, how? You're saying you're delivering this economy, how? How are you delivering this economy? And what if this economy doesn't show? That's what this government says as well. They're talking about delivering that economy and they're not. How are you going to deliver that economy?
Invest in innovation in our economy, tackle competition. All of these things are part of the big economic reforms that we think need to happen, which I think will be much more attractive to those people who are earning high incomes, want to employ lots of people. They will see New Zealand as a place where it's good to build big businesses.
Would you?
Qiulae, I mean, I think we've probably been, to be honest with you, there are many on the right who have gone off on opportunity of recent times because they've just pointed to tax stuff. And I'm not saying we've gone off on opportunity, because I've said to Q and I said to Raf that I really like some of their policies, but there are some concerns with a party who says they can go with National. And my concern now is the policies that they're explaining and talking about have so many holes in them.
Yeah. This was their crowning policy, that and the land tax. And they were, well, they still are darling policies for a lot of people. Like, a lot of people see a UBI as a key way forward as our economies transition and
into AI and automation.
Into AI, if it's going that way or whatever.
Yep.
But a UBI can be something really important. What's very key here is you scratch the ops UBI and it falls apart. Because usually the argument for a UBI is you tax the wealthier a bit heavier because they can sustain it. You make a whole lot of savings because you're not trying to administer a complicated welfare state where you have to employ a lot of people to check whether this person still has an illness that means that they can't work, or we have to chase Bobby to see that he's done 15 CVs this week. All of that sort of stuff. With a UBI, you can ramp that down. You have a lot less bureaucracy. It is very clear from what Q is describing here that is not how their UBI works. First of all, it's not universal. There's big carve-outs.
That's been pointed out several times.
Big carve-outs. They're still going to have to administer it because there's of course people that will it'll apply to and people that it won't. And then their tax to support it sounds like it's fucked as well, because they haven't considered, exactly. And when I'd looked at it, I hadn't considered exactly what Jack pointed out, is that people returning to New Zealand that have been away for 5 years, they don't get it, but they are expected to carry the tax burden to support it.
And she was like, the wealthy that come, no. My sisters went off and did the OE and they worked in car rental places and pubs in London, or they travelled around Europe, then they came back with nothing. That person would then be paying so much more. And as it's been very, very clearly said, a UBI, the U part of it seems to be pretty clear. And Qiulae, I think the point you've just made is absolutely important, which is very clear that UBIs work by taxing more to the top end of town to support the bottom end of town. But what she's actively saying is everybody's going to be paying a heap more tax. Now, if everyone's paying a heap more tax, who can afford it more easily, whānau? The top end of town or the bottom end of town? Yeah,
and this is the thing. If it was a UBI, one of the things is you can just go, well, everybody gets it. Everybody gets 20 grand. That makes a huge difference to the people at the bottom. The people at the top, they won't notice it as much. But it's not that. And I think to call it a UBI is misinformation.
I'm just reading the chats as I go past. All right, let's have a look at the last one. And I don't want to bury the lead because I sometimes forget which part of the interview it was. Because just to talk about the actual tax, pardon me, Jack lists at some stage, now I don't know if it's in this clip or not, it might be from earlier. Either way, you may hear it again, that the tax we're talking about, Qiulae, can be somewhere between $17,000 and $27,000 a year. So you can be paying $17,000 more in tax. That's $400 a week more in tax. And as I said, if you're coming back to help your dad run the, run the farm, or you're coming back from working at a pub touring around the UK and you're coming back here and you're getting an entry-level job whilst you're starting to build your life back in New Zealand, it's big money. It's real big money. We do go into a part, though, one of the other ways they need to find their funds for this And it's fascinating because when Jack lists out those things, it's like all of these things have to happen for a UBI, which means a UBI is impossible to happen because even if half of those things happened, there's not enough money for a UBI. So they've lined it up that all of these things, the land tax, all of those things need to be hit to get the money to run the UBI. And the other thing that they need to do is a lot of public sector cuts. You know, talking about, the right, talking about these guys being the left-wing lunatics. Let's hear them slashing public works, shall we?
So you said the citizens' income will cost $69 billion. Some of the costs of the policy are going to be offset by savings in the public service. Some of that is the digital stuff. But the real savings come from cutting staff, right? So according to your workings, how many jobs will be lost?
We've estimated 2,000 jobs.
2,000. Across which departments primarily?
Primarily MSD. So that is primarily people who are working at work and income that are spending a lot of time checking tick boxes at the moment to make sure that people are still eligible.
Qiulae, it makes sense that if the organisation that looks after people on benefits and stuff no longer has benefits to pay, that they could cut back the workload. What sucks about this interview is doesn't really look like they've got much care about what happens to those workers.
Yeah.
And
for those, they definitely don't sound like people in jobs.
And for those 500,000 people who aren't eligible for a UBI, who looks after them, like within the governmental systems? We'll keep going.
For their benefit. We've heard stories from the Citizens Advice Bureau where they are spending hours on the phone with people trying to figure out whether they're still eligible or not. People can't even get through to MSD some days to make those claims. And so if we can simplify that process, I don't think that those are jobs that even those people really want to be doing. We could repurpose those, and maybe that.
This is the out of touch bit. I don't think those people are doing jobs they want to be doing. If you're looking at someone right now with a $600 a week mortgage, and I know the difference between a job and a career might be if you love it, but most people in the world tend to have a job. So to have a political party go, you don't really want that job. Well, you don't really want that job. You'd happily give that job up. It's fairly elitist sounding. Oh, we're just rolling and get a job at the shop next door. You'll be fine. They don't really want those jobs. It does feel a bit like, hey, let's cancel the Māori seats. Shouldn't you talk to Māori about that? Oh, they don't really want those jobs. Well, don't you think you should go and talk to those people to see if they want those jobs or not? I know she's saying they don't want those tick box jobs, but those tick box jobs equates to their jobs. So maybe there should be some communication rather than. And I'm not saying they are elitist, but it feels a bit like, we'll sort this out for you. You can go and have more free time. You don't need this job because we're taking away your $90,000 salary and giving you a $20,000 UBI in 5 years when you become eligible.
Those are jobs that even those people really want to be doing. We could repurpose those, and maybe that would reduce the savings.
So hang on, that's what the policy says, right?
Yeah.
So the policy currently says that you'll be repurposing 2,000 Ministry of Social Development employees. Now you're telling me you're cutting them?
So the $4 billion includes, not repurposing them if we chose.
Yeah, this is very bad. This is very bad. This is another example in this interview where she gets contradicted by opportunity policy. So she says something, Jack says, it says the opposite, and then has to backtrack. Second time in this interview.
We're repurposing them into a nutritious slurry.
You're cutting them?
So the $4 billion includes, not repurposing them if we chose to, because there was an argument and a business case.
Well, hang on. The same policy is telling me that you are repurposing them. That's the language. You say you're going to repurpose 2,000 Ministry of Social Development employees where they can have more impact. And the very same policy document says that you're going to be banking those $4 billion, which relies on cutting those staff.
Mm-hmm. Well, the savings are based on cutting the staff, and
that's
we would do that over
says.
a long period of time.
Yeah, that's not what the policy says.
Well, we have been clear that savings does include the reduction in staff.
So will you change that policy so that it says 2,000 MSD staff will be cut rather than repurposed?
Yeah, if that's not clear enough in the document, then we should make that clearer. I think what's clear here, though, is that we would propose to do this over a long period of time with intentional, changes. We've seen this in the IRD, for example. Over the last 10 years, they've tried to build a more efficient IRD. I think that is very different from the National Party's, decision to try and cut 9,000 jobs arbitrarily with no plan, with no intended outcomes for what kind of service, these public sector jobs would deliver. Whereas this is a planned change that would deliver more efficiency and better outcomes for New Zealanders, most important.
So it's 2,000 at MSD, but you've got IRD as well, you've got Ministry of Justice, you want to make 10% savings at OT, 12% at MB. So across the public service it's 2,000 to be totally clear, or just at MSD it's 2,000?
We've estimated across the public service, I believe, yeah.
Even that last couple of words, I feel like that I'm being an arsehole. Like, am I the arsehole here for being so critical? But even that last word, I believe. I mean, you're on Q&A talking about your policies. To say I believe, you're like, I think that's what we're saying. You know what it feels like? I'll tell you, I'll be honest. I think Q is very credible as a front person, but it kind of feels like someone else is doing the policy. Because if you are the person writing the policy, you are the person in that room doing it, you know it like the back of your hand. I'm not saying that's the case, I don't know, but it kind of feels like there might be some other people. And I mean, let's be conspiracy theorists. There's some board members we've already been talking about in this interview, but some other people who might be responsible for the policy because Q is responsible for getting them over 5%. Don't know if that's the case. It kind of comes across like she's not completely over their own policy, their own charter, and that concerns me, Qiulae.
Yeah. No, this interview was dreadful. Really, really bad. And I noticed that obviously Helen Clark has been commenting on it today, saying it was train wreck, that sort of thing. And Q has fired back by saying that she's willing to have a one-on-one debate with Chris Hipkins.
Why would Chris Hipkins do that?
Why
would Chris Hipkins?
He's turned around and says, "Oh, look, we'll probably run into each other on the leaders' debate." But
I don't think they will. At the last election, Luxon and Hipkins had a debate, and everyone else was separate. I think Qiulae will probably run into Marama, or probably Chloe actually. Chloe and Rawiri and Winston and David. I don't think she'll run into Christopher Hipkins because last time the two main leaders wouldn't do that. It might change, but that's what it was. Just for people to know, here's Helen Clark's tweet. While civility was maintained throughout, objectively, this Q&A interview with the top leader was a train wreck. Simplistic responses trying to defend land tax, higher income tax, and job cuts in public sector. Fantasy posing as policy. I think the words simplistic responses is kind of what I've been trying to say. It's like not really into the details. And I know we're a bit spoiled here in New Zealand. Some may disagree with this, but I don't think you can really say that Chloe doesn't know her shit. Like whether you're a supporter of her or the Greens or not. I can't imagine Chloe, who's probably the best at doing this in these sorts of environments, is going to be going, I think, or I understand, or about their own policy because she's a policy nerd. I don't get the sense that if the Greens are going to do policy, I'm not saying Chloe's written every letter of it, but she will be involved with it and know it like the back of her hand. Oversimplistic, not really having a full handle. Like 2 times Jack Tame made her literally do a 180 because their policies and their charter disagreed with what she was saying to the public. Correct. Makes me also think, Qiulae, here's something I haven't thought of before until this very second. How many other things is Qiulae saying in public which is not accurate to their policies and their charter? Because Jack caught her out on 2 in one interview. How often is that happening out in the public? I'm not playing nefarious. There's a red under the bed, but if these are mistakes that she's making in this kind of setting for her own policy, when else is it happening?
Yeah. Yeah.
You go. I've got one other thing to show, but you go.
No, there's nothing more to add.
I was going to say as well, because we are hearing about TOP and we are hearing about how successful they're being and their numbers are growing. They had an item, I'm not going to watch the item now, but they had an item on Stuff 3 News tonight. I'm just looking for it. Chewy, where's it gone? Oh, there we go, for you. And I was just going to show you guys. Oh, man, look at it. Maybe it's been taken down. That's 3 days ago. Oh, that's a shame. Feels like it might have been taken down. Maybe I was wrong. Anyway, I'll just say what it was. They had a big, an outdoor meeting today in Auckland, and they had a shot of the crowd. And if you went around the crowd, I'm just looking at my history to see if it's there, because I definitely played something from them. If you have a look around the crowd, here it is. Here we go. I'll show you. If you have a look around, oh, maybe it was from yesterday. Maybe that's why. If you have a look around the crowd. Just have a look at the crowd here. Oh, come on, Stuff. And have a look at... Okay. Have a look at the number of teal shirts to non-teal shirt ratios. Because
yeah, so you're saying that they're mainly volunteers.
I don't say they're mainly volunteers, but it looks to be maybe 50-50.
There's a lot of volunteers.
There's a lot of volunteers. Now, that's not a bad thing, but I mean, like, if old Winston had seen this, he'd be like, well, my meetings get 300 people in their 80s who are the only ones that vote. You know what I'm saying? They are supporters. I mean, he does do that well. But here, if you have a look at how many people are attending from here to here, maybe in the background there, to there and there, to there, to over here. There's a lot of teal shirts there amongst people. So that as an example to me doesn't look like a massive groundswell. And I'm still fascinated. I said way back when I didn't think they'd make it. We acknowledge again that Pat's always wrong, but I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, if you're on the left and you want to see a left-led government and you still see opportunity as a good option, I'm not going to tell you how to vote. I wouldn't say that, but I'd get you to do a bit more digging. I mean, this tech oligarch, these people who are giving to National and ACT, who are the money, one of the monies behind this party. It's just a warning, whānau. That's all, just a warning. Anything in the supers? Do you want to grab those?
Yep. Okay. So Arvid, someone on the collective said, the Op2IC thinks the free market will fix climate change. That and this prove that they aren't a serious party. E-Grant Right list members are an unknown quantity in all parties.
No, that's not true. There's not list members in the Greens, not list members in Labour or National. No, not in all parties. And maybe some of the early small parties. Like, for example, when ACT went from Seymour to Seymour plus 6. In that instance, they were, but not all. And am I right that message said all parties?
Yes.
No, they're not. They're not a.
Only a Sith deals in absolutes. Op won't have ACT or New Zealand First levels of pull. They'll make Luxon look strong, potentially.
Yeah.
Like, let's take the last poll results where everyone went bananas and said, look, they held the balance of power. They can hold the balance of power. It depends on how they negotiate. And this is something that I referred to earlier in the show, that once things go to coalition negotiations, we don't know what goes on. You know, it takes ages to go, oh, well, we can't discuss what was in the coalition agreement, blah, 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 blah. And I think we would all agree that the reason that some of the policies that have been done in this term are because Luxon is a terrible negotiator.
For sure.
And Seymour and Winston had him by his short and curlies the whole time.
There's no short and curlies, he's bald, bro.
Are we saying that Q is as canny a political operator as Winston Peters or Seymour?
I'd say not from the looks of that interview. Very much not.
That's what we're saying.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you can have the balance of power. It's how you use it. Not seeing a lot of good.
It's not the size of the balance of power, it's how you use it.
Harmless Solutions NZ. Gareth Morgan's piece in Newsroom gives some insights on ops tax reasonings. It's scary. I haven't read that, but I will look it out.
Gareth Morgan also said in an interview that they should be sitting in the opposition benches. That's where TOP, the Opportunity Party, started, and that was their origin story, to literally actively sit in opposition.
Yeah. And I'm also a strong believer that a new party like that should spend some time in the opposition benches to get a handle on being a party before they add the complication of being the government. So one man's opinion. The way to get more BHN is a sick and tired Pat, correct? We are over 2 hours. Nobody rang the gong. Just saying. This is pure slopulism. The Slopportunities Party. Look, that's unfair to Op, I should say. The true party of slop is National, and if you don't believe me, check their Facebook page. Every post they're putting out is just AI slop. And shout out to Reb12B, who was very kind to host this at it's 39 Ponsonby, wasn't it? I keep on thinking 29 Ponsonby. It's 39.
39.
Stoked that you liked our sweet cheese balls.
Mate,
and we did. The rumours are true.
I'll put your sweet cheese balls in my mouth any day of the week, bro. Next time we're in Auckland, we know we're having our meetup, just so I can save some more of your sweet cheese balls.
And a bit of scandal here. Insider info. Op decided that the Frankton Rugby Club Hall was not good enough for their upcoming Hamilton venue.
All right.
Wow.
There's an elitist way to have some soy milk lattes rather than some. What are they? They'll be Waikato, Wakatu. Having some Wakatu, good can of Wakatu, bro. We done?
Right. It's no nice time now.
It is no nice time, and of course,
someone put a sheet over me so I can go to bed.
Guys, it's the run up to the election is going to be very, very busy. Obviously, we're not always going to get a chance to talk about everything. We may not get a chance to talk about the things that sometimes you find most important, or the other thing that may actually happen is we may sometimes have to cover off things over a few days. I did think today about maybe doing Goldsmith tomorrow night, but it just felt it's the start of the week. It's the right time to do it. But there are some pretty big things that have happened over the weekend that we haven't got close to touching on today. So we might have a look back at some of those things, like the ACT Party solving racism, which is great because, you know, it's a bit like how they brought the country together. They brought Māori together. Both Winston Peters and David Seymour will be credited at the end of this term to bringing Māori together like no one had ever done before. They may be also credited with solving racism with their new policy, I think, Qiulae, which is nice. But yeah, I think that's us for tonight, guys. I think we'll just bail and we'll catch up with you tomorrow night.
Help us settle a debate, whether it be thoughtful or funny, even if we're all creatures of hate. It's a fine line that we're walking together. For better, push aside the temptation to berate. Let's take a note of the corners we stand in. As many points as the hairs on my chinny chin chin. When the news that we're watching is hairy, knowing all the things that we need to be wary of. Like the rich have the hand out for rewards, while the many have to work out what they can afford. And the rest of us ain't paying attention, or maybe have questions we're too worried to mention. Other media is still dwelling on trivial facts, vetting peas from the rice and the mice from the rats, and picking and choosing a war path to run, and linking ourselves with the hill to die on. It's gotta come down to a welcoming vibe, with an A and a self and a higher in mind. All heavily, neither this way or that, and we'll be analyzed by what you and Pat. With the evil in the world trying to mess with your head, and you're sitting on the couch, you're thinking chivalry's dead. Each night, 2 nights, they're gonna sing you to bed. It's big hairy news.
All right, team. Nothing else to add. We'll catch you from tomorrow night. Have a good one. Have a good night's sleep. I'm going to go do some editing now. Love you to bits. Hug and kisses on all you pink bits. Anything, Qiulae?
Times 2.
Times 2. All right, team. Catch you tomorrow. Be safe. Be well. Hooroo.
Cheers, fam.